This is Hildegard Stutzman. She lived in Germany when the war began, and she was 2 years old.
Yes, I was 2 years old, I guess, when the war started. And just about then, a little bit later, my father was supposed to join the Nazi party, and he wasn't going to do it. So to punish him, they drafted him, and he had to go to war, even though the war wasn't quite progressing real strong, but pretty soon it did. And I remember how he would come home, I think twice a year. I would say because of that I grew up without a father. He was almost like a distant uncle who came twice a year and brought little gifts along, and it was a happy time. And when he left, we would all cry again because we knew he, wouldn't come home for a while. So, and then, well, the bombing started pretty soon. The airplanes and so would fly over our city, and they would start bombing, and we would have to go in and out of the shelters to kind of save ourselves from all the bombs and debris that was flying around.
What were your experiences like as a child?
Actually, I always remember as long as my mother was there, I was fine. I was the youngest, of course, and my brother and my sister, of course, they were always with me. Even though my dad wasn't at home, my mom made it pretty nice for us. We would go to church Sundays. My brother was 12 at that time, and of course he had to be a member of the Hitler Youth. And not right away, but later on they made the meeting with the Hitler Youth on Sundays. And of course we are church-going people, and that went against my mother's grain. So she told him, my boy has to go to church first and then he can go. And pretty soon she realized that didn't come on too good, because Hitler was against any religion. He didn't want that at all. So I guess she had to let him go. I know she didn't like it, but that was one of those things, it was almost like a dictatorship with them. The German people had to do what Hitler wanted. So.
Did you have many friends as a child?
Oh yeah, I had, we lived in the city, and like all cities, there are streets and long streets and short streets, and we kind of lived in the smallest street of a main street. And oh yeah, all the kids on the block, we would play together. And right across the street from, across the house from us, was my best girlfriend. Her name was even Hildegard, just like mine. And I would always go over there. She had this beautiful dollhouse, and we would play. Of course, she would come over to us too. And one day we had this big air raid, and her house was flattened out. The whole family, everybody in that house, plus that beautiful dollhouse, was gone. Yeah.
What did your parents do for a living?
My father was a state policeman, and my mom was a homemaker. She was the best homemaker too, I think. Yeah, and because my father was a state policeman, he was required to join the Nazi party, and because we were Christians and it didn't agree with our belief, because already then, like 1938, 39 and 40, Hitler did some odd things. Well, for one thing, that he didn't want anybody to go to church. But because, like I said before, because my father didn't want to join the Nazi Party, so he had to go to war early when he was one of the first ones.
Where about in Germany did you live?
I lived way up north by the Baltic Sea. It was called Danzig. Now it's Gdansk. And when Germany was divided up, that part of Germany is given to the Poles. Of course, the whole region up there, on and off, if you go back into history, it was Polish, it was German, it was Polish, and a part of Poland was Russia again, and it was always kind of back and forth. So, well, I know it's never going to go back to Germany to it, in my lifetime. Or that Danzig itself was a free state. It was almost in the middle of Poland. But a free state is governed by itself. We had our own little government. We had our own little post office. It's almost like a country. Like a small German country in the middle of Poland. That's what it was. That's why both of my parents spoke really good Polish.
What are some of your feelings on Hitler and the Nazi Party?
Well, if it wouldn't have been for the fact that my father was very seldom at home, I remember, we had a pretty good life. For one thing, Hitler promised us so much. The Volkswagen was one of the first things I remember my father buying stock, in the Volkswagen. Every working person was supposed to have a Volkswagen. And everybody was, that's the saying, everybody's supposed to have a chicken in a pot. But I do remember, because Danzig was a very big city, he toured our city, and I remember standing on the sidewalks with my mom and many, many more people. He came by in a limousine and threw candies to all of us. And my mom quick sent me out, so I did pick up some of his candies and ate them. They were pretty good. Yeah. He looked like a friendly guy to me that time. I don't know, but I was, of course, small. Maybe 3.5, 4 years old. So.
What other stuff did you eat for dinner?
For dinner?
Yeah.
We ate pretty much like here. Custom is a little different. In Europe, in Germany anyway, we eat our biggest meal at 12 o'clock. Like you do, potatoes, meat, gravy, vegetable, salads,
Okay.
And for supper we had either a sandwich or some kind of soup, just a light soup. And everything else. Of course, when I grew up, when I got a little older, the economy was very bad. I never had chocolate. I didn't know what a banana looked like. I didn't know what an orange looked like. I think I was 11 when we finally came to East Germany, and we met my father again after a few years in being prisoner of war. That somebody gave me a banana, and I kind of thought, what the world is this? Other than that, food is pretty much like here.
Can you tell me how you met your husband?
How I met my husband?
And your experiences with him in Germany?
Yeah. Well, after my father came home we found him from Russia. He was a prisoner of war in Russia for 4 years. We lived for a while in East Germany. That's where we met him again. And like everybody knows, a communist country is never real pleasant to live in. You have to do what they tell you to do. And everything belongs to everybody. You really don't own anything. Every business, every little bit you have, you're supposed to share and give to the government, and they again give it back to the people. So we weren't real happy. And my brother wanted to study, and even there he was told what to study. And he didn't agree with it, so he left one night. I still remember at 12 o'clock he came home from the school he was attending, and my mom packed his suitcase, and just so nobody would see him, he passed the border and went over to West Germany. So, and he went to Frankfurt. He was in Frankfurt for a while, and pretty soon we got letters. Oh, well, it was hard for him to work and study full time, so then my mother and my father left, and they went to West Germany. I was still going to trade school, and they wanted me to finish, so I finished, and when I finished, I again went to West Germany. At that time, it was a little easier. It was 1959, at the beginning of 1959, and the wall wasn't up yet. So in Frankfurt, my brother was in Frankfurt, and because my dad had some distant relatives in Bad Homburg, this is where we settled. And of course, like I said, I came over, and I was an interior decorator. I got a job right away, and we started work. I worked, and well, we lived pretty well. And my sister and some girlfriends and we took the bus, and we went to Frankfurt to a Fasching party. Fasching is like Mardi Gras in the South, but it's a little bit on a different way. It was in Frankfurt in a really nice, elegant wine cellar. There was nice music, and everything was decorated really pretty. And because it was Fasching up to 12 o'clock, the girls, no, not everybody, the guys were picking up the girls to dance. You know, that's how it's usually done. But up from 12 o'clock on, the girls were allowed to ask the boys to dance. And I was sitting, everybody was already, you know, everybody grabbed the guy, and they were all dancing, and I was still sitting and looking around. All the tables looked pretty empty, and way back there in the corner was this one lonely guy sitting. And I asked him to dance. And that's how it all started. And he was a photographer. And when we came back from dancing, he was a photographer in the army. But I didn't know it at the time, because he spoke German, and kind of pretty good. I thought maybe he was Italian, because Jim is kind of dark-featured, you know, this curly dark hair. I thought he was Italian, and there were quite a few Italians around. Italian isn't far away from Germany. And, well, then I found out he was American. And his buddies took pictures of us, and of course he wanted to send me a picture, and he took a beer deckel, what we call, and he asked me to write my address down, and that's how it started. Then he sent me a picture, and he came up to see Bad Homburg, and from there on.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about the concentration camps?
The only thing I can tell you is even my dad, all the way up to his last living days, he said, it is really a shame that the German people didn't find out about this sooner, or they would have surely done something to stop it, or, you know, would go against it. Hitler had the capability to really keep that a secret, until he started doing it big, you know, taking a whole lot of people away, and they would disappear, and they would never come back. And then finally the German people got away and thought, nah, something is going on. So other than that, I really don't know that much about it.
Okay, what about, who did Hitler take to the concentration camps?
Well, he took... as far as I know, because on my mom's side there's a whole lot of Poles, like I had 2 uncles and his families, they were in concentration camps because they were Polish. They were Polish, and they had farms. And I guess their farms they were pretty big farms, and Hitler somehow had something against the Poles. And also, of course, the Jews. and the Jews were taking over all the businesses in Danzig, and he wanted this to all stay in the German hands. I mean, they were German Jews. I don't know what he had against them. I can only tell you, my brother would tell me that the Poles, I don't know, maybe this isn't real nice to say, but the Poles and the Jews had something in common. They were very business-minded, and I guess the places where they lived, where they would start their businesses, after a while it didn't look quite as nice anymore. And this is something in the German blood, you know, it's supposed to be, everything is supposed to be nice and new and looking good. So I guess I was really too young to grab the whole thing that time. I only know when the bombs came down, boy was I scared. I still sometimes have that feeling in my gut.
What did you do when the bombs?
Well, we had to, you know, in the middle of the night, usually it started at night. The siren would go, ooh, ooh, you know, and my mom, we all had to get out of bed, and she would dress us. And I was three years younger than my sister. She would dress me, and then she would dress my sister. By the time she had my sister dressed, I had myself undressed again. I tried to go back to bed, and she just couldn't, you know, get anywhere. Finally, she just grabbed us and down, because once they started throwing the bombs, you know, we were safer in the shelters than upstairs in the houses. And yeah, and sometimes that would go 2-3 times at night. Or even she would go shopping sometimes with me. I was still in a stroller, and she said she would, when this started, she would just have to go take the stroller at me and somebody's shelter, wherever she was.
Right. When did you move to the United States?
In 1960.
Yes.
In May 1960. We entered the New York harbor on May 15, 1960.
What made you come over here?
Well, we actually came because Jim, my husband's mother, would write us letters all the time. Come over and visit, you know, want to get to know your wife, and so on. And this is what we did. We actually came to visit. But in the meanwhile, I became pregnant, and I was waiting for baby. And Jim started working here. He had a job at JB's. And actually, after we were here 4 weeks, Jim got very ill, my husband, and he had to go to the hospital, and we had no insurance. So his parents gave us the money to pay the insurance. They loaned us the money, and to pay that money back, it took us, I don't know how many years. That's why we had to stay here, to pay the money back.
Can you tell me about the work camps you were in?
Well, it was not like a concentration camp or anything like this. When we finally knew where my father was, we had to go through a camp, and that was kind of rough. We didn't get much to eat, and we had to work hard. But I probably want to tell you how we knew where my father was, because he was missing in action, and my as far as we were concerned, maybe he's dead. But my mother didn't want to leave the area where we lived before, although we had to leave Danzig. We were evacuated, and we were at many places. Whoever took us in, we stayed a little while. And anyway, it was Christmas Eve. My mother dressed us all. It was a beautiful, kind of really cold Christmas Eve. Fields were white, and there was no transportation, so of course we had to walk everywhere. And she dressed all three of us, my brother, sister, and me, and we went to midnight mass, 12 o'clock midnight mass. And because my mother knew the area, she could just cross, go across fields to kind of have a shortcut. And this is exactly where we were. We were in the middle of a big white kind of glittering field. And all of a sudden she said, you know what? There's a black dot in the middle, and this black dot is kind of moving, and it's getting bigger and bigger, as if somebody's coming towards us. And there really shouldn't be anybody, because that was way out in the boondocks. And it was a person. And yeah, we got closer and closer. And finally we realized it was a cousin of my father who also lived in this area. They were farmers too. And he carried a letter from my father. My father, when he was let go by the Russians because he had typhus, they gave him a blanket and put him on a train, and they said, go home. And when he entered Germany at all, he started sending out letters. Wherever he knew he had relatives, or we had my mom's side relatives living. And well, this one letter came to his cousin, and this cousin knew where we were. And he's the one who came with that letter on Christmas Eve, on that snowy white field, 12 o'clock, before 12 o'clock midnight. And he gave us that letter that my father was alive. That was the best Christmas I would say I ever had. Yes, and then, anyway, before we met him, well, this was, you know, we just knew now he was alive, and my mother knew where he was. So now she had to find a way to get us to Germany, because we were still in Poland. And we had to become somehow acquainted with a group that would transport Germans left in Poland to East Germany, because that's where my father was. And she managed it somehow, but we had to go from Breslau, it's a big city in East Germany too, to a smaller town where we had to stay like in a camp. Like, I always say it's a concentration camp, because it was so nasty, so bad. We were so hungry and thirsty, and we had to sleep just on a plain floor with just a little bit straw. There was no, you couldn't wash, it was so cold. It wasn't nice. It wasn't nice at all. I remember my mom, because we were so hungry, she took us and we went for a walk, and she gathered grass and cut it up for us, kind of, and made, I don't know, with a little bit of water or something, just so we would fill our stomach with something. It tasted terrible, but I guess it was something. And we had to stay in a camp. First they had to delouse us, and I remember being in this one barrack, and everybody was undressed, everybody was naked, and we had to stand in line, and there was this woman in front of me, and my mom, of course, right behind me, and my brother and sisters, and they would give us shots, and I don't know why they gave her a shot right here above in your breastbone, and the needle broke, and it started bleeding. I was so scared to get my shot. I don't know anymore what happened, but I guess I got my shot, but the needle didn't break for me. And then they powdered us against lice and all kinds of sicknesses. And we still had to stay quite a while in this camp until my father came. He had to find somebody with an automobile to where we could, you know, so he could take us wherever he stayed. That's about the story about that particular.
Shot there, but
Okay. And just record
Why are you recording?
I'm Brian Barter. This is my World War II report. I'm interviewing Marlon Crest. Alright, Pat, how old were you when you joined the Navy?
16.
No, 17.
17.
17?
Uh-huh.
Did you see any action during the war, Pat?
World War.
During the war.
Yeah. World War II? Did you
Yeah.
see any action?
Not that bad.
Not that bad?
He wasn't involved directly in it. Not in World War II.
How old were you when the war started?
15. 15.
15.
15?
Is that right?
What was your rank during the war, Pat?
Did you say rank?
Your rank.
Hell, I wasn't that big. I can't help it.
He
I
was first class seaman.
Let's see what else.
Dad, you were a seaman first class.
Huh?
Seaman first class.
This other one should be in here.
Okay, well, listen to Brian.
If I could find it.
Dad, look at me. Dad, you were a seaman first class. Tell Brian. Seaman first class. Tell Brian. He asked you a question.
Yeah, what
Repeat
was
it,
it?
Brian. Repeat your question.
What was your rank during the war?
Seaman first class. Seaman first class.
See here?
No,
Oh,
seaman.
Oh yeah,
A
seaman.
first class.
Why don't you jump in there?
I'm telling you, I'm helping you.
Did you see any deaths during the war, Pat?
Not a lot, no.
Alright. What was your task or job during the war?
During World War II, Dad.
Well, you could be in the back all the way to the front.
Yeah, but he was on a tanker.
They move you around.
They refueled. You helped to refuel other ships during
Yeah.
World War II.
Yeah,
Tell Brian.
yeah.
Right?
Yeah. I quit
What ship did you ride on during the war?
It was a tanker.
running.
It was a tanker. It was a tanker. You refueled other
It's part of
to,
that.
to refuel battleships
Yeah, well,
when you first went into the
Other
war.
than that too, it's
Right. And then towards the end of it, you were on the New Jersey, the
Yeah.
USS New Jersey.
right.
When you first went in, you were on a tanker to refuel the ships.
Uh-huh.
Pat, do you regret joining the Navy and not the Army?
No, I don't have any regrets or anything like that.
Alright.
He's a Navy man, aren't you, Dad? You like the Navy best.
Have you ever had to swab a deck, Pat? During
Yeah.
the Navy? You have?
Yes, I'm afraid I did.
Good many decks, huh?
Yeah.
Where did you have your boot camp or training at?
No, because we went straight through it out of Philadelphia.
Alright.
Yes, that's right. I thought it was Florida, but it wasn't.
Uh,
They pushed you guys right through, didn't they, because of the war?
yeah.
You really didn't have like an extensive boot camp. They went right to Philadelphia.
Uh-huh.
You're married now. How long have you been married with your wife, Pat?
Current wife.
Your current wife. How long have you been married with your wife?
I tried never to be having it.
13
is that
years.
what it's supposed to be?
Dad, you're married. You're married to your second wife 13 years.
What are you saying that?
Because it's the truth.
Was what are you telling? I was never married.
Yeah, you're married twice.
Who?
You.
Were you married during the war, Pat?
Not during World War One. Or
where
two.
I was.
Were you married during the war?
Not during World War II.
No.
He was just a kid.
No, was I?
No.
No. She knows more than I do.
Did you take any shore leave?
And what?
Any shore leave?
Well, you were best at
Nah.
shore leave, weren't you, Dad?
No, we didn't have it.
I don't
They
think
did?
during the war they had much.
No, because you were running all the time, you know.
Were?
The ship is. That's it.
No, not yet.
What?
Not yet. Brian needs to ask a lot of questions.
Jesus, but I'm gonna be here all night.
No.
Were your parents upset about you being in the war? You going into World War II, were your parents upset about that?
Yeah.
His dad was very upset with him because he wasn't at the right age.
What made you join the Navy?
Why did you join?
I don't know. I know how to do it, and
You told me once that you felt that it was your duty to do that. You needed to join. Right?
about what?
To join the Navy because of
Yeah.
the war.
Wait, see what I do.
No, you're just looking at the book.
I don't remember all this stuff.
He gets silly when he doesn't remember.
What do you think about the war over in Iraq right now? What we're doing over there in Iraq? We're sending the army over there. What do you think about that?
I don't think anything about it because I don't even want to look at it.
You think that it was right sending our men over there or not?
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I do.
Had to happen, didn't it, Pat?
Yeah.
So you think we should be over there?
Yeah.
Me?
Yes, you
No,
think.
no, not you personally. Do you agree with the fact that our troops are over there?
Well, how many are we looking at?
Well, no, Dad. The question he's asking you is, do you agree with the fact that we have to have people over in Iraq fighting the war
I'm
because of the bad things that were going on there?
Yeah, well,
Yes.
it's better now.
Yes. Well, it's better now that they've gotten some
Right.
right.
That's it.
No, not yet.
How many children did you have?
How many children do you have?
None.
No, you have 5 children.
Where are they?
Oh, they're all around you. I'm one of them. You have 5 children.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have 5. Tell me
Mike?
what's next.
Mike, Tom.
Did you have any children during the service?
During what?
Not
When you were in
during
the
World War
service, when you were in World War II, did you have any children?
II. No,
No. I think.
no.
Any of your children? Did any of your children join any branches of the armed services?
Yes. Yes.
Well, these are all part of it.
No, your children. Tom, your son Tom
Oh.
joined us. What's Tom in? Tom was in the Air Force. Tom, your son Tom. Daddy, look at me. Tom, he was in the Air Force, right? Your son Tom was in the Air Force. For 20 years, he retired from the Air Force.
Okay,
He's in the Philippines. Tom?
yeah.
Yeah. Tell Brian, yes, you have a son that was in the Air Force for 20 years, that retired from the Air Force. Tom.
Yeah.
Okay, yes, he does. And he retired from the Air Force.
Did you finish high school, Pap?
No.
Yeah, when I...
Well, no, you didn't actually graduate from high school. You got
Oh,
your
that's right.
You got your diploma, your GED through the Navy.
Yeah. Shake your head when I'm supposed to do something.
I'm helping you.
Did you go to college, Pap?
No.
No.
He
I
was,
was too smart.
but he did go to technical school on a GI Bill, and that's where he learned his trade in welding. Well, ask it.
What's next? Come on, you're bushing it up.
Brian, go to the next one.
Somebody do something.
Just ask it.
What was your job after the war, Pap?
He had several jobs at first, Brian. And he drove a truck for a bakery. Remember? You drove a truck for a bakery? Yep,
The bakery.
yep. You drove a truck for a bakery for a while. and then you got married and had children, and then you went to active duty after World War II. You went in active duty. They recalled you for active duty for the Korean War,
Oh.
and that is when you were. That is when they put you on the USS New Jersey for the Korean War, and you saw a lot of action. After that, after you were out of that war and you had children, you went to school on a GI Bill.
Yeah.
The Navy helped you, and you got a degree in welding, and that's what you did after the war. You did welding,
Uh-huh.
and you got that degree in welding because of the service. They helped pay for you to get your schooling for that.
Uh-huh. That's it.
Did you go to school for any certain trade?
Welding. Tell Brian, yes, welding.
Welding.
Yes, you went to school for welding.
Oh,
Tell
yeah, go
Brian.
ahead. I did.
Other than World War II, what other wars were you in?
Where, what?
What other wars were you in besides World War II?
Oh, I don't know.
The Korean War.
Huh?
The Korean War.
Korean War. I wondered where it was.
But he had gotten married in between that time, and as a matter of fact, Pap was over there when his son was born. He didn't see his first son until he was 3 months old, because he was in the war, in the Korean War, and that's where he saw a lot of action on the battleship USS New Jersey.
That's it.
No.
Not yet, Pap.
Yeah, right. Sure.
What were your thoughts on World War II?
Where's the what?
What were your major thoughts on World War II?
That's what. Remember what that's after the Japanese bombed Pearl Harbor. I know that he's always disliked certain people because of that.
What?
After World War II, your thoughts about when Japan bombed Pearl Harbor?
Yeah.
Brian wants to know what you thought about all that. It was pretty traumatic at the time, wasn't it?
Yeah.
What were your
Not
thoughts?
real bad.
What were your thoughts on World War II? And the Japanese and the German people. What were your thoughts on all that? After the war, what were your thoughts?
Running.
They were running, huh?
Yeah.
Because the Americans got involved in the war, huh?
Yeah, that's it. That sound right.
Didn't like Hitler too much, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
What?
I said you didn't like Hitler too much, did you?
No, I didn't like him.
No.
Tell me the
Or the
next.
Japanese for bombing Pearl Harbor.
Oh, yeah. Not that, too. Huh?
No. All right, next.
Next question.
Okay.
Next question. Do you have another one?
That's about it.
Not yet, Pap.
Oh, Jesus. Yeah.
Where was your first child born, Pap?
Where?
When?
What?
Ask
When?
the questions before the answers.
When?
Yeah.
Mike was born in 1951. His first child was born in 1951.
All right.
Second child was 52.
All right. Brian, if it's, are you worried about going long or going short? Huh? Long? What? How long?
All right, talk about the ship. He loved the ship.
Well, I have a question. You can ask one for me. Ask him if his brother was in World War II.
Was your brother in World War II, Pap?
My brother.
Yes.
No.
He wasn't
He
in
was
World War
never
II.
in any of the service. Uncle
No.
Ken never joined the service. It was because he had a medical problem, I believe. Uncle Ken had a medical problem, didn't
Yeah.
he? That he couldn't be in the war. He couldn't join any of the naval service.
Yeah.
I
Or
was just
any
curious.
service, branch of the service. His dad at the time was a chiropractor, and he was very opposed to
Yeah.
Pap going into the war. That's why he forged his dad's name to join the war. So there was some real
Huh?
confrontations between Pap and his dad.
Yeah, but you know, the patriotism of the time, that was true of a lot of families, because I know my dad did the same thing.
He was.
Pat,
Yeah.
what ship did you ride on?
The Jersey.
The Jersey.
Yeah.
That was the ship that you rode on for the Navy.
Yeah.
When we first went in, no, he was on a tanker. Then, towards the end of World War II, he was transferred to the New Jersey. But it was at the very end, so he really didn't see a lot of action on that battleship
If you're worried
for
about
World
going
War
long,
I.
end it.
Instead of,
He's had his fill.
he saw all of his, he was on it for all of the Korean War. The New Jersey.
Thank you, Pat. You've been a very good help.
You're welcome.
I appreciate all you've done for me.